Andrew was going to come, and I think she sent an email that said, she sent that to the whole board, just to me,
I don't remember saying anything from her. Whatever.
just to me. Well, Caroline is a privilege for me, but these days I'm not working on my laptop, and so I actually, I'm trying to not, you know.
Okay, I'll
hunched
share it with
over.
somebody else when they come in, but I'm just really look at it.
So how is your neck doing?
I'm in PT, it's not perfect, there's, you know, weirdness every now and then, but much better, obviously, I'm functional. I drive, I do everything, so I just need to be careful, whatever that means. Certainly watch my posture.
Ah,
That's,
that's key.
that's what I have to do.
So,
It's really difficult at this age to relearn how to hold your head.
Especially if you're used to like going around the computer.
Well, that's the
what
problem.
it is.
That was the laptop, when my upstairs computer went on the fritz, like right before town meeting, like 3 weeks or so before. I had to use my laptop, and I was just like this for hours, you know.
I knew it.
And that's, so nothing traumatic in particular happened. I was outside on the deck and I was talking to Chad. He was here looking at the greenhouse for his assessment thing, and all of a sudden my arm just went crazy, and I said, oh, I have to go in. So he left, and,
Yeah, that's,
It was
it was a
just
change
not
in
good.
posture when you were doing that.
yeah,
Once you're
Yeah.
looking at the computer, I think.
exactly.
Yeah, mine does the same thing, my arm and my fingers will go numb.
All right, everybody, it's 6:31, and I will call to order the select board meeting on July 9th. First on the agenda is the approval of last week's minutes. I made, I think, one typo change, and then clarified that the report, or the New Hampshire Bond Bank was interested in making sure that our tax exempt status on these projects was the same. So I just clarified
Right,
that.
no, I saw that.
Yeah.
What you didn't address is, I wanted to insert the letter, the management response letter to
It's-
the auditor.
It
Did you want
should
that
be
in?
on, it's on the website. What do you need, the link or the? Okay, I will send you the link, sorry.
Did you get my changes?
Mhm.
Okay.
So you had some as well?
Well, the
Yeah.
date was the 31st of July for the public hearing,
Not the
and
21st.
not the 21st. And then there was a spelling error.
Yeah,
Will,
right,
I think was the word.
yeah,
That was
I needed a word.
The public hearing is 21st,
31st,
31st.
so Tuesday the 31st.
For the space.
For the,
needs.
for the police station.
Oh, right, not, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry,
Got
yeah.
it. Okay.
So I just needed to make sure it's that.
Perfect.
Well, no, it had to be.
Other than that, it was fine.
Okay, so by consensus, we're good with the minutes?
Yep.
Okay.
It's a good question to have.
All right, community input, I see, Ray.
Well, I'm actually here just to find out what your transition plan is gonna be, because I heard the devastating news that you are leaving. And so I wanted to be here for that.
It's probably not till later on
That's okay,
in the meeting.
I'm here. And also, I'm hoping I can catch up with the fire chief and maybe temporarily after he does his thing, I can run up and talk to him.
All right, good enough. Anything else? Yes.
I was at the transfer station today. Does anyone know when the window's gonna be fixed in the new shed?
George,
We get a chance to get to it.
there we go. There's the answer. Thank you. Appreciate it. Anything else? Okay. Department head, well, very conveniently, George, you've walked in right on time. Would you like?
I have nothing unless you got stuff for me.
No, I can just tell you that I'll tell you and the board that I think I've been copying you, I don't know about the board, on my emails to the Stratford Regional Planning Commission, so we can get the road surface management system sort of on track. And so board, what Colin Lentz, who's probably going to be the staff person primarily in charge, is we're going to be talking about options, like what would it cost us if we did a full reassessment of the roads, which if you ask me right this very moment, I would say we don't need. That really we can just update it with the work that we've done and kind of go on from there. And maybe talk about, I don't know, what a complete reval of the roads would cost. Maybe something we want to do every 3 years, every 5 years, I don't know, but I don't think we need to do it this year. But we are gonna meet, there's no date yet, but George and I will meet with Colin just to review options. I'll bring them back to the board and we can see how we wanna manage it. So there was that. The only other thing that I was going to talk about is, based on the conversation I had with Caroline this morning, you and she are meeting with NRRA, Northeast Recovery Resource Association, or something like that.
Yep.
We pay dues, they're our primary recycling assistant, and they're going to be providing some data on how we might manage the change from single stream recycling. One of the things that is to, it's not to our benefit, this is a, you know, it's one of the things that we have to address. One of the things that may help in the PR we do to the town is that there's more and more information out there, just generally available to the public, on what is not just our crisis in recycling, but in the nation's crisis in recycling due to China. China's just stomping down on the quality of what it is willing to accept. So we'll just wait to hear what some of the ideas.
She said something about you had questions on the road price.
Oh, I do. So, yes, so I just wanted to, you know, she's going to give me the Q2 figures soon. And one of the things that I'm gonna try to do is see how much money I can scrape together for various potential personnel-related issues. Some of which are, you know, related to my transition out, some maybe not, maybe things that we wanted to try to do anyway. So I saw that the Pike final, I guess it's a final contract, is less than $290. So my question was, when I left, there was all this hoo-ha, we had to get it up to over 300 because of the gravel. So what happened? I'm delighted.
We haven't bought the shoulder gravel yet,
Okay.
but that's gonna be minimal. That's,
Could you help me with minimal? I mean, that's gonna be,
he said it's only about 100 tons, so that's not gonna, it's gonna be less than $3,000.
okay. All right.
And I got some already that we just stockpiled, so, you know, so that's gonna help. We're gonna, you know, I wanna keep some on hand.
Sure,
No,
sure.
we need it. But, we did a lot of work with them, so, you know, we helped them out with different things, and that helped keep the cost down.
Well, that's great.
So, and, you know,
So I did draft an update to the town. I think I sent a copy to you and the board and Caroline, is that familiar? Did it last week? No? Did it end up in my
No,
draft and I didn't
I
send it?
don't remember saying
I
that.
don't remember seeing it.
Uh-oh,
on what?
just the road update.
Oh, I did remember seeing it,
And I
yes.
wanted a paragraph at the end that said, here are the projects that
Oh, okay, yeah, I was
That,
away,
you
and
were
I
just
didn't,
talking
I
about
didn't do anything on it yet.
the,
what we had
woodlands
done.
and what we
Yeah,
had
this is
done.
what, right,
Yeah,
Okay,
so
yeah,
I
I can
did
add
see
that.
it.
okay.
Can I,
So-
sorry,
No, please.
no, it's not about this, go ahead, I'll stop.
Oh, all right. So it would be helpful if you could sit with
What
Caroline
was
this
done,
week.
yeah, I can get that done.
Just review it. I mean, what I wanna make sure is the language that I've used is appropriate, correct?
Mhm.
And then the thing at the end is what we're hoping to do with the remainder of the money for this year. And with some, I don't know how I started it, but, you know, we may not be able to do all of them, but with these the things that we are considering for the remainder of the money. You know, fire engine, locust, the whole locust and.
Yeah, bottom of Locust Street and a couple sides.
The whole list that you brought to us last week, so that would be helpful, if you could sit with Caroline and do that.
Okay,
Okay,
that kind of answered my question, I think, but, because I thought, I was gonna ask the question is, why can't we use the road maintenance money for all the projects that you had indicated last week? Because I thought you were taking them from departments,
Well,
individual departments, like Mark was
we
gonna
were
do
gonna use
some.
some of that, we're trying to keep the cost down. When I asked him to use his money,
Okay,
when this all started, not knowing what the final bill is. This is prior, this
okay.
list was made prior to the final bill.
Oh, okay.
So we can look at that, you know, that, definitely we can use that.
Well, because we're limited to what we can use that money for, right?
It's gotta be-
It was on a warrant,
It,
so it has to be used on roads, right?
no, it's not no, it's part of our operating budget.
It
But-
wa- it
but
wasn't a
what-
warrant article this year.
It wasn't a warrant, remember, that's all
It got
was
changed
applied,
back
cost
into
us,
the budget.
yeah, it cost
They
us.
wanted to put the road money in.
Oh, that's right, it failed.
Yeah.
That's right, okay. But even so though, if we have
Right.
money in that
No,
line, we
it's
shouldn't
definitely,
hit individual departments, kind of shorting them out to get these
No,
projects
no,
done. so-
that- like I said, this list was made prior
Okay.
to,
Okay, then that just.
and we may look at a different way of doing it, you know, I mean,
Well, I think what you're
we'll
doing is
probably
fine.
do the prepping for it and have a paving contractor paving the bigger sections instead of trying to do it piecemeal, which would be better. I mean, we can do the job, it's not a case that we can't do the job, but I mean, if we have the money available to.
Yeah, I think at first, you know, we thought this contract was gonna be, it was, when I left, it was upping 305, 306,
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah, and
you know,
it
with each
came
new
in a lot better.
discovery, yeah.
Came in a lot better than we expected. They probably didn't use quite as much gravel as they had to, or, you know, in that rate too,
As
so.
anticipated.
But, no, I'm a little surprised it was a little lower than what they anticipated too, so.
And there's nothing,
He said
That's
that's
it,
the
that's
final
it.
bill.
I don't know, okay.
The thing they're gonna fix on the corner of Bear Road where they broke with the trucks, that's not gonna be a cost to us. Foundry Street's not gonna be a cost to us,
Okay,
so.
all right, I don't think there was anything else. I know that Caroline drafted a message about the recyclable. I didn't have a chance to look at it, did you? Michael?
There's
I read
been, there's
Just-
been,
just
Talk
this
about the
afternoon.
email that said that we had some wrong
we
deliveries.
didn't do it.
Well, I know,
There's nothing we were aware of.
Oh, no, that, okay,
That's a
that
different-
is
That's
a
another,
different
that's
issue,
another.
yeah.
se-
No,
that's-
Caroline is drafting something for the news blog to
Right.
alert people that they're going to be, there could be some precipitous changes to how we
Oh,
recycle.
I didn't see that.
So,
Like maybe lane changes and things like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
There's gonna have to be some changes.
yeah, so it's
That's
just
fine
to
with me.
alert them, and I hope, I haven't read it, but if, maybe we can take some time later on tonight to, do you have any way to read it?
Mhm.
All right, we can, I can bring it up, I didn't read it myself, Michael, did you have any?
I read it earlier today, yeah,
And
when it came
does
up
it
fine by me.
Yeah,
Let me just-
there's been some issues in the last week or so, so.
So what was the miscommunication on the,
Apparently, the waste demo, when Shipyard started trucking, we decided to take it to ARC instead of to Waste Management, where we
Decided to
contracted
take it
with
to what?
Contract, yeah.
To where?
ARC, it's a recycling center in, I don't
So
know,
on in
if
Southport?
they may be affiliated with them in Elliott. Their trucks are parked at the same
oh.
place,
oh, okay.
so I don't know what the case was there, but they decided to haul stuff that way, and I don't know if they were doing it for other haulers. It sounds like that in the last email I looked from Valerie.
Yeah, she
But this
didn't know.
should have been handled by
Lamprey.
by Lamprey.
Yeah, so she kind of admitted that there was some miscommunication relayed, but I was a little,
That
Afraid of,
miscommunication's costing us some money.
but we shouldn't be held accountable if it wasn't our people who miscommunicated, it was them who miscommunicated. Even though it broke the contract rules with
Waste,
turnkey,
yeah, waste management.
but how can we be held accountable if they gave them the wrong direction?
Well,
That's what
I don't think we are. So
Well-
we're just not paying those bills, and Caroline is trying to sort it out with
But it said
Valerie.
there could be contractual problems on
Well,
our part.
Yeah, it's not on our part. I
Yeah.
would say it's not on our part. None of this is on our part.
Okay.
We're noticing it because of the bills, but we're not going to pay them,
Okay.
and we're,
And I wouldn't even have brought that up. Russ called me Saturday, because Troyano was wanted to haul away the demo, and he said, is it going to ARC, is it going to waste? I said, we don't have a contract with waste,
Right.
so it goes to waste.
goes to waste.
We'll decide, we'll find out what's going on Monday, and, you know, this was Saturday, and I didn't,
Yeah, our demo and our solid waste goes to Turnkey. That's part of the
Mhm.
cooperative
Mhm.
contract that we've signed. And so, you know, in this time when the truck cooperative disbanded,
Right,
it, you know, there was a mix-up, but I don't believe any of it is our issue.
well, that's
So-
what I read, and it really wasn't us, it was them that was relaying wrong information.
so, I mean, I don't know how many trucks they made over there, but that's when we started getting bigger charges for our hauling and stuff, so.
Yeah, so so we're just not paying them at the moment, so
Okay.
we figure all that out. All right, so here's the letter. The Rollinsford Select Board would like to, the draft, the Rollinsford Select Board would like to alert the residents to changes at the transfer station. If you've been paying attention to the news, you may have heard that recycling has very little value. China, once the largest consumer of American recyclable materials, is no longer buying nearly the quantity it once did. Warehouses are storing vast amounts of recycling in hopes the market may turn around. What does this mean for Rollinsford? It no longer makes sense to bundle all of our recycling together. Single-stream recycling, as it is called, no longer makes sense. Each item, whether it be paper, aluminum cans, glass, or a numbered plastic, has a different value. Separating out these items will help us save money. It will likely still cost money to dispose of when we once earned money on it, but it will remain less expensive than throwing it away. Please be aware of new traffic patterns at the transfer station as we work through the numbers to determine how best to make the most of this difficult situation. We hope to find the best way to strike a balance between cost and environmental friendliness. Please be patient for changes going forward. Seem okay,
Yeah,
George?
Yeah.
Okay.
What
so-
I would like to do is put a open and closed sign at the beginning of Jesse Doe Road, so people don't have to waste their time going all the way down there. On the day of the transfer, or the hours at Jesse Doe,
So, whereabouts?
right at the entrance to Jesse Doe, right off to the side, that really was up
by the track,
on our shoulder, just over the track.
just over the tracks.
And there was another concern about the tracks. Ed picked up on it, coming the other day. Well, if you have to stop for cars coming down Church Street to go to Jesse Doe, where are you parked? On the tracks.
Say
that
You
again?
should be parked in the tracks. Say it again, please.
You
So,
go in, Church Street begins at Main,
Yeah,
and you make the turn and continue to Church Street.
Yeah.
But when cars are coming down Church Street, who has the right of way, where does the car stop when you're driving in from Main Street? The next stop is the railroad tracks. You're on the tracks when you're waiting
Never
to
stopping
turn.
on the tracks. I don't remember stopping on the tracks.
Well, you could.
You have to stop for the
What
traffic.
George is saying, if a car is coming the other direction from, on Church Street towards the transfer station going
And
down,
you didn't see it soon
oh,
enough?
if you
And you
didn't
have
say
to
it.
stop,
I guess, yeah.
if you have to stop to see that, to stop of that car, your life will be sitting on the railroad tracks, which could pose an issue. And the thought was, is could we put the stop sign at Church and Jesse Doe and make Jesse Doe the right of way?
I would,
No, I take it up with the
okay.
highway safety.
yeah, Highway Safety Committee?
Yeah.
So that's a good question to ask of Chief Ducharme, and he'll call his committee, and you may even be on it,
I am on it.
yes. So those kinds of things are
But
best.
I just wanted to bring it up, you know, I mean, it is a safety issue, because,
Good point, I didn't think about it.
you
Yeah,
know, if you don't think about it and you're sitting on that track, don't take
Well,
much for that,
well, no, I
Amtrak
understand,
comes
yeah,
flying down
exactly,
through
it comes
here.
flying down,
and
absolutely,
you're on the tracks and you got no place to go,
yeah,
you're in the gates.
yeah.
But Ed's is safety minded, and that was one thing he brought up,
Well,
because
that's
it
a good
happened to him,
idea.
because he had gone beyond to see the car coming.
So can we, all right, so that, please take that to the Highway Safety Committee. To wind back though, your other question was about the hours.
I was at the transfer station, I mean, we have
Or-
people coming in and turning around in the front of the yard, I mean, it's a pain in the butt for everybody.
Yeah,
If we're trying to back a truck out and stuff like that.
well, again, bring it to the Highway Safety Commission,
And see if, I mean,
and see if that's the
I
right
think
place.
it's a great
Yeah,
idea.
I mean, do
I
we
mean, it
have
would
any?
save a lot of people from driving all the way down into the transfer station with their trash and, you know, I mean, we could probably get the signs from NRR, because we have
Yes, 'cause
points.
we get once a year, we can get free something.
You know, and have a nice looking sign instead of, you know, nothing
Yeah.
that
But you would
says
have to
made.
have two, one for spring, one
No,
for
you just have a
summer.
flip, have all your hours on it,
Oh,
but
okay.
then when they're open, just flip the sign down, open or close.
So somebody would have
Oh, I
to do
see,
that.
versus telling them what the
I
hours
do that
are.
every day.
Yeah.
Except, you know, when they go into work, they can put the sign open today,
That's true.
you know.
I would say, you know, for placement and for any other potential traffic-related issues,
Mhm.
bring it up with the Highway Safety
Yeah.
Committee.
No, I mean, that was, you know, a couple of things
I
that
think it's a great
that came
idea.
up, so.
But what I hear most about is, what days are you open and what hours are you open? So that's, you know, I wish we could have something posted with that info as well.
There is a sign
For,
on the gate, and there's a sign
well,
right
when
next
you're
to it,
already down there.
but you're already there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, well, Google says you're open every day. Well, we're not open every day.
Well, I know that, but once
Yeah.
it's on Google, you can't get it up, right? I mean, that was old. and
Someone
old.
said they were gonna try to work to get it off. but
Kristen,
it's-
Krista Paleko, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
I'm not
And every
sure.
time they call to update our Google info, I tell them I'm only the road agent, and they hang up on me. They won't give me, you know. I said, this is a town entity. Google calls me 15 times a week to update our Google information, but as soon as I tell them I'm not
That's
You
interesting.
know, it's a town entity, they hang up on me, or if I tell them I'm the road agent, then you can't make a decision, you know? I said, well, I can tell you what's going on, but that's, I mean, that's the kind of response I get from Google when I, you know, and I get these calls 3, 4 times a day sometimes. It's like, you wanna buy a house, or you wanna do this?
Lord.
But, you know, I get.
Google?
Google calls me 3 or 4 times a day, sometimes 5 days a week.
Related to your work for the town, or just,
It just comes across on my phone, so whether it's,
oh, okay.
and then I get to Google and call it the town sometime, at the garage number, wanting to update our info. Every time I try to talk to them, they hang up on me. So,
Lock them.
Yeah, I don't receive
that doesn't
calls
work
from
anymore.
Google.
They find more ways of getting into your phones today. I mean, I got a caller ID, said it was someone at the fire chief, and it was nowhere near him. It was someone from out of state. You know, and it's his phone number, and I knew who it was.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I think otherwise we're good.
okay. We're gonna start the shouldering probably again towards the end of the week on Heritage and start bringing the stuff down. We did patch some holes along Sligo today that were getting pretty rough, so.
At one point, do you need to rent,
The roller, we may do the shoulders without the roller. We might use the backhoe and roll with the backhoe. That's heavier than actually a small roller would be,
okay,
and that would work all right.
all right,
When we start doing hot top projects, we'll look at it, and
all right.
I might talk to Dover, see if they have one we could borrow, do something like that, instead of, you know,
Okay.
whatever way we can do
Sure.
something. See what our options are. We got time to work on it.
Michael?
George, what's wrong with the window in the new building at the highway department, or the transfer station?
That happened to in the winter, they get broke with a plow.
Oh.
They hit the building or something, went by with a plow.
I see. I got you.
We just gotta take the whole unit out,
I
and
got you.
it wasn't, we didn't think it was, you could still see out the window, so we left it alone for the time being.
Is there like something, a board or something across it, or?
And we gotta tear, what we gotta do is take the wall apart the way it was installed,
Oh,
so it's not just
It's a
a,
big job.
it's not just a,
okay,
you know,
I just wondered.
few minute thing.
I hadn't noticed it when I was down there.
If it wasn't installed, you know, they put the plywood on after the window was in place, so it's, you know, it's fine, it's built fine, it's the way it was done.
Right, I
It's
got you.
basically we'll have to
Okay.
take it apart,
Okay.
so.
Okay,
Other than that, I think, you know, I'll keep you updated on things that come up, and,
yeah, all right, thank you, George.
Good night.
Have a nice evening. Let's see, the other department heads, so we'll go to town administration. Budgets, the resident tax and the inventories, I've asked our tax collector to, please come and talk to us about this sometime this month.
Yep.
She was gonna try, she at first said she could come tonight, and then I saw an email not too long ago that said that she had neglected to, she'd forgotten about another appointment she had, so she won't be here tonight.
Okay.
But she may be coming to talk to us about both of those issues. So I should be getting from Caroline, who's on vacation next week, but I should be getting by the end of this week, there are 2 numbers. And one of the things that I have to do is see where I can scrape money, so that we can use them for various aspects of transition plan or, you know, other kinds of personnel related things that we might be wanting to do to help the situation. So, so maybe I'll have some preliminary data next Monday, but certainly at least by the following Monday after that, we should have some information. And the other thing, and this is more related to the transition, but, you know, I haven't actually written my official letter of resignation. It was gonna be as of like the last meeting in July. I could up it to the end of that week, which would allow me then to go to that budget meeting and provide the Q2 report. But if you would prefer to not have me do it, I mean, I'm cool either way. However you wanna work it.
I'm fine with you being there, but we need to appoint people who are going to be there, so it depends, I'm willing to do it, I don't know what Michael's feelings is, but.
I wouldn't can be effective by the Friday if you want.
Okay, so then I will plan on doing that one, thank you. All right, zoning ordinance. So, you know, one of the things that, as I, you know, continue to think about how to make our meetings more efficient, is changing who is or having our building inspector sign, having his signature on our building permits and certificates of occupancy be all that is necessary. In other words, remove the select board from that. So the zoning ordinance, however, as Michael pointed out early on, specifically says the select board. And I've gone back and forth a couple of times with the municipal association, and you know, you could try and say that it applies or designee, but it doesn't explicitly state that, so the safest thing is, of course, to have the board do it. And then I said, okay, well, can we do it, you know, outside of a meeting? In other words, have at least two of us sign it outside of a meeting, and that came back, no. The only thing that you can do that for is manifests. So we have to do it, but I would like to see what the board thinks about asking Caroline to go through the zoning ordinance, or one of us, it doesn't make any difference, and propose the changes necessary to make the building inspector be the person who does this, and submit that change to the planning board as a proposed zoning ordinance change, which would come before the town in March.
Mm. My only concern with that would be, if for some reason we change our building inspector. I mean, I have a lot of faith in Tony Clark, because he's dealt with Rollins for years and years and years. But what happens when he decides to retire? Then I don't know.
Well, do you anticipate that we wouldn't hire a building inspector?
No, but I just don't know if it would be someone who is familiar enough with Rollinsford. And, I don't know, I'm just throwing out a concern, that's, I mean, yeah.
I know, change is change.
Change is
But
change.
let me suggest this. I mean, having been on a board that actually looked at these things, we were not qualified to look at these things.
Oh, agreed.
And to see whether the amounts were correct
Mhm.
or applicable. So, you know, the assumption is that the building inspector, we would hopefully hire somebody who's qualified, who understands building trades and who can do this sort of thing. Now, how about though, I mean, we could, you know, we're making a change, we could say the select board or the building inspector, you know, we could write it so that it gives us a optimum leeway.
Maybe I misunderstood you.
Yes.
What he's doing today is all of the legwork and everything for us. So when I sign that, I already know that he has reviewed this completely.
Yes.
And I'm just signing as an authorization to
As I
go
am.
forward.
As I am.
So that's not what we're talking about. He's still gonna do that, but then he's gonna be the only signature, not.
Correct.
Okay.
Which is what happens in other towns. So it would not come here. We wouldn't lose any public information because the log is going to be online. And so, you know, so anybody wants to see the building permits that have been approved or they're in the pipeline or whatever would be available on the website or, you know, through town hall. You just come and take a look at them. In the meantime, in the short term, so there are two issues. So one is, and you know, we certainly don't need to make that decision tonight, but it would be helpful for the board to actively consider, like, you know, your concerns about just having the building inspector, which is, you know, what a lot of municipalities do. And that way, you know, there's the business continuity is enhanced. Because now it doesn't have to wait till the Monday. And as you know, in particular, the certificates of occupancy are problematic. I've signed some outside of meetings and had to bring them back. I think you
I
had to
just
sign.
signed one last week.
Exactly, because there are residents who are ready to, if they don't know that they're closing, that they get, all of a sudden everything comes together. And their bank closing is ready and they need the certificate of occupancy, or they can't close.
Right.
So, you know, from a business continuity point of view, you know, our Monday meetings can be roadblocks for some things that in other municipalities just kind of move forward. I think, you know, the building permits is one of these things, and so I would encourage the board, if you don't wanna, you know, ask Caroline to sort of go through the zoning ordinance and kind of come back with a proposed change, that's fine, but I think, you know, I encourage you to, us to actively consider doing so. We can revisit it again next week. Do you have any thoughts, Mike?
I don't really know what I think about it. I think certificate of occupancy, it makes sense to have that signed off by the building inspector. He's the one who's actually going over to do the inspection, to see if it is ready to be signed off on. I mean, we don't actually go over and look at anything, so.
No, but he actually does sign it.
Right.
He signs it.
He signs
Yeah,
it.
He signs the
yeah,
building
yeah,
permits,
yeah.
you're just,
Right, but.
to be honest, I feel we're rubber stamping it.
Mhm. I agree.
But also a
Might be.
roadblock, because until we rubber stamp it,
Right.
things can't go forward.
Yeah, so I don't need much convincing on the COs, but I'm not sure about the building permits. I gotta think about it some more. I mean, I can think of two for sure, maybe three, at least, well, maybe three. Times past select boards that I sat on. The chair who filled them out for us and reviewed them for us when I first got on, sent applications, building forms off that were commercial. It should have gone through the planning process for site review for certain properties, and then certain ones it was caught, but, and then it was caught and people had to go back and go through site review. I think we've solved that problem by having Mr. Clark do it, so I guess that could be evidence to back up what you're saying, but I'm not there yet, so I gotta think about it some more. I'm trying to figure out what reason, other than the fact that they didn't have anyone to do the administrative work, it was just everything dumped on the select board to do. If that's just the case, why it says the select board has to do it, or if there's another reason why. So then I'd like to look at what other towns do too.
So when someone gets a building permit and it gets approved through the process, who do they come to see and pay and it gets notified? How does that happen?
I think in a very number of ways. I mean, I think often Caroline or the front office, once it's been signed,
Mm-hmm.
there's the exchange, sometimes the check is with it, and so
Mhm.
someone will call and say your building permit is ready. Actually, Salmi may have more direct information.
They put the building permits that have been approved on the counter in the
Mhm.
front office.
Mhm.
And then you come in to pick it up and pay
Okay,
at that point in time.
okay, so someone in the front office notifies them that it's ready? Or you just by chance come in and see if it's ready?
Yeah, I don't think they notify right off the bat.
Okay,
I think you have an idea that it's going to the board, will be meeting on Monday, so,
oh, okay, so then we're assuming it's gonna be
Yeah.
ready through the board,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so that initiation of getting payment and stuff is really taken care of through the front office, once all of that's
When
done?
people don't pick them up, they call. I mean,
Okay,
if they sit in the folder, they follow up on them.
oh,
yeah,
so
after a few months.
does the person who has a building permit get something to put on their building?
The building permit
Yes.
itself.
They get
that.
permit
They
itself.
get a
They that
copy.
permit and are supposed to post it in a visible manner.
Because how do I get that? I never get
They
mine.
should have given you a copy
You
of
should
it.
have given, you should
A
have given a
photocopy,
copy. and-
yeah.
Well, that's because she left her check here.
Oh, I did, I paid it then.
You know, she didn't give the
Oh,
check
so
in
you should have a
person. And you
copy.
people should have said, she needs to have a
We
copy.
people should have said, so Denise, we people are gonna say,
Okay, I'll call and ask for a copy. Okay,
I
okay.
think you get the original, actually.
Oh,
I think you
No?
no
No, we
copy.
need the original?
Copy with
Oh, all
signatures.
right.
You
Okay.
get a copy and you're supposed to put it in your window, yeah. Or
Okay.
somewhere, so
Okay.
it's visible.
Somewhere
I'll
it's
come get it,
visible.
because they're still in construction.
I mean, I've done that, put it in my garage window, and the only person who might see is the UPS delivery person,
But
But whatever,
it was supposed to
that's
be.
still, that's the,
I think it makes a lot of sense in one aspect. I'm always a little concerned when new people that you're not comfortable with might come in and do the job. But then if we use the word "or" the Board of Selectmen,
yes.
then we can take
We
some
can
time
say-
to review before if we had somebody new.
Absolutely, you
So-
can do that
I
that
think
way.
she should at least do the reading and the research,
All
and
right,
just kind of,
all right, well, all right.
That's my opinion.
Well, we don't have full consensus on this, we'll at least ask Caroline to go through and find those spots and make those, come back to us with what that looks like. So the other thing that, has popped into my head from time to time, and I may have mentioned it, may not have mentioned it, I think that Caroline had found a growth ordinance and sent it along to the planning board last year or something, but nothing ever really came of it. As I was driving, down, there used to be one way there, Dover by the past tunnels,
No,
and all the development that's going on.
no.
Oh, on Dover Point Road?
Yes, Dover Point Road, thank you. I mean, they're like, looks like they're gonna be gazillion units,
That's unbelievable.
And
They're doing that.
so, we have the land available here for similar things to happen to us. And so, it's, again, something that I would encourage the board to think about. We don't have to act on anything tonight, but does the action or desire come from us? Do you know, are we the ones who might say, would we ask Tom, could you please craft a growth ordinance for us, or find one, or
Come from the planning board.
why should it come from the planning board?
Well, it's gonna go through the planning board.
It goes
process.
through, right, it goes
You can-
through them.
You can, anyone can bring a proposal to the planning board, but it has to be sponsored by the planning board. The planning board's the ones who's gonna hold a public hearing and all that.
Precisely, exactly, but we could encourage them, right?
You could, but the planning board could just say, encourage all you want, just throw it away. So I don't want you to waste your time. I don't want anyone to waste their time.
Has
until
anyone on the
they-
planning board mentioned
Until
it?
you come to the planning board and discuss it with them first and make sure that there's interest. At least the majority of the planning board's interested in doing it, that's anything.
Has the planning board discussed it at all?
We had a preliminary conversation, very preliminary, when she first sent it, I'm trying to think what town it
Was
is.
Northwood,
Allentown,
Allentown, I
maybe?
don't know,
Something like
somewhere,
that.
it was somewhere.
Somewhere over by Concord, that it was dealing with similar, it was restricting growth to X amount of houses, or X amount of building
Or-
permits for new construction per year, I don't remember, something like that.
Or a percentage, or, yeah, it was
Yeah, it was
some,
something like that. At the time, there didn't seem to be a lot of interest, but that doesn't mean that this planning board isn't gonna be interested. I mean, we might have also just run out of time, so. Before the,
okay.
before
So,
the March meeting, but
and Caroline's an alternate, right?
she is now, yeah.
All right, maybe,
So, can we go back just for a moment
Yes.
with, just something to think about issuing the building permits. We have one ongoing and one potential application to build on a Class 6 road. Where the sole discretion to allow building, to issue a building permit lies with the select board by statute. That's something you just wanna keep in mind. If you really wanna move forward with changing how the building permits are issued, that's something you wanna keep in mind. If a caveat, if a subsection needs to be crafted or something, that deals with that, because what's it to Tom Clark? Or, I don't pick on Tom, to the building inspector, code enforcement officer, whoever it is that ultimately has a job, could be Mr. or Mrs. X in the future, what are they,
Well,
they
so-
don't have the same level of obligation and I'll say commitment to the community because they don't reside here. They're not an elected official in this community versus just an employee that may or may not reside in the town. There is a difference in my mind as someone who's responsible to the voters, so the residents, but.
well, I'd like to think that an employee is responsible to the select board to do his or her job adequately, and.
Right.
So, I mean, clearly, if a Class 6 road permit has to come before the board, I mean, one of the things we asked Tom to do is make sure that all of the correct zoning ordinances are followed. So if it's supposed to come to us, that he would make sure that it did
I
come.
mean, that could be one of the things to say, I mean,
So, but I made a note, so
but we need
we'll,
to be careful, there aren't other instances like that that we're just not thinking about. So a thorough review of the zoning ordinance, I think, would be in order.
with regard to those spots that say yes. Yes, that's what I thought I would ask
Mhm.
Caroline to discern. Okay. In the meantime, in the short term, one of the things that we could do is just, you know, when the building permits are online, is we could just sit here quietly and just sign them. And it would take maybe a half the time that it does to read them into the public, because what we would do is then have some stock phrase that just says, the select board, you know, reviewed and signed building permits
Yeah, that's fine with me.
for an online, you know, to see them, either come to town hall, look online, and it could just be one stock sentence, it would save you time, would save time to review them.
It'd just be simply a list, you know, permit number and whatever, 2018-001 in the address, and electrical, or new
Well, that's-
construction, whatever, yeah.
We have that,
exactly.
that's our log.
Yeah,
So-
no,
so-
I understand that, I get that, what I'm saying, I'm backing up what you're saying. It could just be put in the minutes and online, I mean, it could just be a running tally of building permits. Doesn't have, you don't have to sit and, it's archaic to sit here and read, or whoever it is comes after me, read the number and the type of.
Yeah,
I would hope that people have better things to do with their time than say.
And it's not a good way to, if you wanted to look at building permits, it's good to have them all in one spot, not a couple of, in this meetings
Right.
and a couple of here, and a couple of there.
Right.
So, okay. So, all right, so we can try that tonight, if there's some in there. In the meantime, I see another department head. Chief,
My turn?
it is your
Wow.
turn.
Quick service.
It
I
is.
kinda dragged my
We
feet.
can't always accommodate in that way, but
And I appreciate that. Few bills to pay, and then kinda waited a little bit to give you a couple of members I wanted.
yeah, I see you brought
A
some,
little information for those two guys that I want you to be aware of. First business is PO number 1433. And it's to the New Hampshire State Firemen Association for our annual dues for the members that are still involved. And that's gonna come out of the association due line. It's $580.
PO 1433, New Hampshire State Firemen's Association, $580. So moved.
Second.
any discussions? To your budget line? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the second one I have is number 1432, Seacoast Chief Fire Officers Mutual Aid District. And it's for our annual assessment for breathing apparatus support.
Testing.
This isn't so much for the testing, this is to help maintain the 3 trailers that the Seacoast Chiefs have available, so if we go to an incident, they get called to a fire, those things are maintained and ready to go. And what happens is every community that's involved in the Seacoast Chief Officers, which is like everybody, they assess you a certain amount per pack. And we have 17 packs, so whatever that works
So
out to.
it's our share
It's
of,
our share of the whole thing, whereas Dover has 60 packs, so they're paying thousands of dollars, so it's just a matter of how many units you have
Right.
and what's available for you, or if you call it that trailer.
Right.
And that's $340 for annual assessment.
I'll move purchase order number 1432, Seacoast Chief Fire Officers Mutual Aid for $340 for breathing apparatus support.
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And can all that go with Caroline, because there's some other stuff in there, WPO, and all the paperwork for the Firemen's Association is there and whatnot. That's all I have to do.
Oh, these are the invoices, okay.
Question? No?
Can you put a fireworks permit out in the office for me so I can pick it up on my way home, please?
For
On my
the,
day?
yeah,
September
I'll get
22nd.
a date if you bring it home here.
I'll never get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Sometimes it's, yeah, sometimes it's best to use the
I'll
formal
observe the
channel,
request
yes.
and off we go. I'll take care of that for you. I'll have that when I get back,
Thank you.
it'll be in the office.
So George was here earlier,
Yeah.
and he was talking about, you know, paving the front, or rebuilding the front, those couple of ramps that are,
Where the engine sit,
yes. And so he may have had a conversation with you about maybe seeing if some of your maintenance money could come out. We're not sure.
Yeah.
That we may be able to cover it all, you know, so it's a work in progress, it depends on what else comes about. So-
Yep, actually, he just stopped up at the
Oh,
station,
okay.
and we had that discussion.
Oh, all right,
Well, he's also looking for an engine to go down the
Culvert.
the culvert on Sligo Road.
Oh,
He
yeah,
wants to
see
try to
about
blow
blowing it
that
out.
up.
Yeah.
So
Is that-
one of our members is gonna go down in tomorrow.
Oh, good,
And try to put some high-pressure water through that and see if we
okay.
can
Excellent.
help out in any way we can.
Good, that's super.
And the other reason why I'm here is the two members that are sitting behind me, members of the fire department, obviously. They're kind of, some of the money that we invest in people, when I tell you that we send them to school and whatnot, those are two members that have completed their certifications. They went through their level 1 and level 2 certifications, class that they started way back in the fall, and they both completed it.
Wonderful,
So I wanted to
congratulations.
bring them in, come on up here.
Yeah, come on up, let's read your names in the public record and we'll congratulate you.
This is Robert,
Robert,
Shay.
congratulations.
he is the water boy.
Congratulations.
And you are
Matt
Matt,
Roszkowski.
congratulations, Matt.
Congratulations.
How wonderful you.
Congrats.
Actually,
Yeah, what's your list?
Robert here actually came to us, he had already done his EMT at UNH with his own, his own funding. One of the instructors there is somebody that I work with, that already kind of channeled him our way.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So he's already an EMT, he's already working for American Ambulance, so now he's a certified firefighter.
So you're relatively new then to our.
Yes, both of
Well,
these
good.
guys are
Well,
relatively new.
Excellent, well, thank you for joining us, we
Yes.
appreciate having you on board. And did you get their both
Yes,
last
I
names?
did.
All right,
Yeah, they're
excellent.
completely new to us, so
Excellent.
it's nice to have two more guys that, be certified or not certified, that we can,
Yeah.
get in the truck, let's go boys, and we'll go off and do our thing, so. They're both very, Caroline's very familiar with Matt, so she can vouch for Matt.
Okay.
She was one of the reasons why he ended up with us is.
Oh, well, good, that's great. All
It's
right.
through Caroline, so.
Excellent.
Yeah, both of these guys are certified, and I'm sure they'll paying some of the dividends on what we've invested in them, so.
Terrific. Well, thank
They
you
both-
for.
they both
thank you,
show
and
up.
Thank you for bringing them.
Yeah, they're very active on calls, and we've been able to utilize them already, so it's kind of been a win-win. And I always tell them, to keep up what we've already invested in them, so.
Yeah. All right, that's
Thank you for
good.
your service.
Thank you.
All right. All right, gentlemen.
And we have another chief that just came in.
Good evening.
Hi.
One purchase order. Sheriff's Department sent their request for our annual dues for the SWAT team for $1,000. That will come out of our conference and dues line item, it's an anticipated expense. It's purchase order number 1408 for the Stratford County Sheriff's Department.
Move purchase order number 1408 to the Stratford County Sheriff's Office for annual dues for the tactical team for $1,000.
Second?
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Forgetting what the date is.
The ninth.
Yes, thank you.
The agenda for July 30th, do you anticipate a?
Is that the public hearing?
No.
31st,
Yeah.
What day of the week is it?
it's Monday.
No, the public hearing's Tuesday though. We got too many conversations.
July 31st?
The July 30th board meeting,
Yes,
the last Monday in July.
yes.
Do you anticipate, at this point, a large agenda? What I like to do is I like doing the boards night for some of the guys downstairs. I would love to have the board participate.
Oh,
in-
absolutely.
Okay,
It's hard to know, obviously things come up,
Yeah.
but we would just pencil it in,
Sure,
not
okay.
pencil it in, we would just, yeah,
I could just
So-
come up.
July 30th. So,
I'll
like,
schedule for 7 PM.
yeah, 7 is usually what we like to do.
Sure,
If
give
we're
you
gonna
time to
schedule
get things out of the way
7-ish,
and
yeah.
whatnot, so, okay.
Okay, that's great. Awards, all right. RPD. And then the following night is the bigger.
The following night is
The
the
public hearing.
public
And I don't know
hearing.
how many people might come, I don't know if it should be here or elsewhere.
We should probably get something out publicity wise.
Yeah,
Through
is
the
there nothing
website
out
anyway.
Just, whatever you want to send it to you, have to stick it out there.
Okay. Did you say what time it was?
6:30. We had one vendor at 6:30 and one vendor at 7:30.
And then 7.
Oh, you're actually having presentations
From the vendors who are
proposal.
actually
Excellent. Could you say who the vendor one is? And
Yeah, vendor one is Best Way,
Best Way?
and vendor two is Groen.
And Groen is at 7:30?
Correct.
Man, I'm sorry, the best way is that
6:30.
6:30, I'm trying to put it in my
Did you
calendar.
decide what it was?
Well, there was some mention about having the Legion. I don't know if we really need a room that big, but the Legion, we don't have a large screen like that either for the folks to show. So I'd say let's plan on having it here. And if we have, we can take all the tables out, just put chairs. And have a table down front for maybe the
For the-
committee and for the person doing the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's a
So,
good idea, I was thinking.
Yeah, if need be, I mean, we got the chairs out back, we got chairs upstairs, downstairs we can bring upstairs if needed, so. Yeah,
All right, that sounds good.
so. That's all that I have for the board, anything for me?
I don't think so. Oh, yes, so what came up tonight was, George brought up a couple of items, and we asked him to take it to the Highway Safety Committee.
Okay.
So one was changing the position of the stop sign around the railroad tracks on Church.
Okay.
I can't say that I really understand, it's a safety issue, he's thinking.
Yeah.
The other one is, he's thinking he'd like to put a sign for the transfer station somewhere around there as well, so that people wouldn't go all the way in and could see it ahead of time. So we didn't know exactly where, I didn't know exactly where he meant, and I said, well, why don't you bring it up with the Highway Safety Committee at the same time?
Right.
Was it like an open and closed sign
Sure, yeah.
for the transfer station?
So,
And the other one is to prevent people from being stuck on the railroad tracks, waiting for the traffic to come off of, Church Street. Because it happened to, Ed,
yeah,
I got stuck on it, it was like, okay.
yeah, it's not a comfortable spot, I mean, I've
Well, no.
never, yeah, it's not a comfortable spot to be
Yeah.
in.
Has that ever come up before, Chief?
No.
No.
Yeah,
We'll just blame Ed.
I know in the past, there's some confusion as who has the right of way when you're coming
Right.
up Church to make a left-hand turn onto Jesse Doe Road.
Right.
Obviously, the folks coming
That's-
down Church have the right of way, but
Right.
because you have the stop bar there for the railroad crossing, people get confused and think they should stop. and-
Yeah, it's a lot of,
and
yeah,
whatnot, yeah.
so,
And I
so I
know
think
one
he
time-
wants to review that.
And I know one time we talked about putting a sign on Church Street going towards the intersection of Jesse Doe and Church that said, you know, traffic turning left must yield to oncoming traffic, so. but That never happened, so. But maybe with this tonight,
Yeah.
so. I'll take the first order.
Purchase order.
Oh, you
He
get them
keeps-
back,
he-
I'm
yeah.
sorry, you're the only one.
It's just- I think it's just easier that way.
Yep.
Than just submit it with the bill
I'm
from council.
gonna send,
All right,
I'm gonna get my permit for fireworks
okay.
tonight, and I'll cancel here, Johnny, you can sign.
Sure.
Thank you.
So it's signed by both fire and?
Yes.
Yes, fire and police chief,
Yes.
All
so.
right, is there any cost, or is it just pro forma?
No, they're free.
They're free.
Did we issue any for the 4th of July?
We did, we had 4 altogether for the week of July 4th.
Do we have any folks that decided
We
to
had a
let
few,
them
we had
off
a few
without,
folks that let them off without permission, but.
I wasn't here,
I think
so
two, I think two, so,
yeah,
yeah.
probably not an unusual thing.
Lucky it was just two.
All right, well, good night.
All right,
too.
Thank you,
Okay.
you too.
All right, let's see, transfer station. So this is, we're waiting for you, Mike, to give us a proposal for the ordinance.
Oh, yeah,
Right,
yes,
so we'll just table it until we get it,
please.
okay.
It's scheduled for,
It's scheduled for, this August, I think?
yeah.
And so we would need to have it, August sixth, thank you, Johnny. Oops, we would need to have it out to the people
yeah,
a full 7 days
Yeah.
before, so.
Yeah.
Dumpsters for buildings of 5 or more units. Is the board comfortable with just having Tom send out what he was,
the letter that he drafted to me was fine.
oh, you've already seen a
He
copy?
sent it to us, yeah.
Oh,
Then it
okay,
goes-
so we could just have
Last
him
week or
send
the
it
week
out?
before last, we were just waiting on the, it was running the new list of,
Okay,
it was
So-
two-part. It was approving the letter and then waiting for the list to be rerun. And we didn't approve the letter last week, so it's fine by me.
all right, so I haven't read it, but the board, as a board, reviewed it, so, okay, we'll just say okay. Please send. All right, so building permits, we're putting it's public information, so we're putting it on the website. It could be there as we speak, I'm not sure.
Right.
So
there was also a question of whether or not the actual application itself should be on the website. Did I see an email about that too today? I thought I saw. Maybe I misunderstood, it was just a log, I don't know.
We're contemplating just the log, because the log is already on Google Drive, and so the website just has a link to it.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
you know, if you go to it today, you'll see one thing, if you go to it 3 days from now, you might see something else, because as the log is updated, your link will just link to the
I
log.
guess I just misunderstood, it was that Dover doesn't actually list, doesn't put online, you know, what has been issued, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't, but, or COs. I see, I just misunderstood the email, I looked at it quickly, I'm fine with it,
Okay, all right.
it's public record, so why not?
So the next one, just town property for personal use, I just wondered whether it might not be advisable to draft a letter to town officials, staff, employees, whatnot, saying, you know, town property is not for personal use. And there was an incident a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Yes.
With
so
me.
I- Yeah.
I would, say that again?
That, just finding, you know, not coming down like a ton of bricks, but just, you know, a reminder that town property belongs to the town and is not
Right,
to be used for, not to be removed, not to be used for personal use.
We
right.
had a scheduled meeting and there was no
Oh, the tables were
tables to
missing,
be
right,
had.
right, right.
Yes. So,
Right, I saw that, yeah.
so,
Okay.
so I can, I'll ask Caroline to, when she has a minute, it probably won't be until after she's back up from vacation. Anything about recreation? Anything happening? This is just sort of a standing item at this time of year.
Yeah, we're meeting, I got postponed, we're meeting the third week of this month, just to go over things. I haven't really heard anything negative. Is there everything, do you know if everything's going well?
The issue I had heard about got resolved within a couple of days.
Okay, all right. And congrats on getting one of your grants.
Yep.
Oh, yes, we haven't seen you since then,
Right,
yes,
right.
nicely
Job
done,
well
Celia. You
So-
spent a lot of time on that, so
Yeah.
$1,000 is $1,000.
Yeah, and right now I'm working on programming for that,
Okay, good.
getting that going, so.
Mhm.
We've actually had, good news is that, since the start of Camp 3, more people have expressed interest in the teen camp, which is still open for registration, and 2 of them have signed up, and another person expressed interest in Camp Raleigh. But the registration had already closed because of our numbers being so
So
high.
high, yeah, yeah. The teen count had lower
So-
than anticipated numbers, so
So we have had interest throughout the summer, which is good news.
that is good news. Yeah, that's good. We'll work on better budgeting
Techniques, and,
techniques.
yeah, maybe a revolver
for,
fund.
Yep,
And, you know, and like, you know, I'm trying not to be the dead horse, but on the other hand, I'm using it an occasion to say, you know, if we met twice a month, then time can be spent for working on projects like
no,
looking for better ways to manage, like something like a recreation committee where there are fees coming in and expenses going out. And a revolving fund could be, like we learned at the budget training session, could be a perfect way to manage that. It also could be, you know, George has talked about stocking culverts to sort of recycle, not to recycle, but to make available to folks with driveway culverts. That could be a little revolving fund possibly too. It's, you know, just fee-based and, so, you know, it's those kinds of projects that if we're just sort of, the more operational kinds of things we take on, the less time we have for these strategic things to make ourselves, you know, more efficient, more effective, that sort of thing. So, end of soapbox conversation.
You have anything else to add about rec? Okay. So it's, no news is good news.
Yeah,
as
it's
far
just
as I'm
nice, you know, I
concerned.
saw Brittany, she was in today, you know, it's just nice, you see t-shirt, big stack letters on the back. And so, you know, if parents are coming by, anybody walking by,
Mhm.
they can see,
Right.
you know, that there are people in charge and there they are.
Mhm.
So it's a really nice confirmation and reinforcement, it's good to see. Paul's integrity, I guess we should, I don't know what the current status
It
is.
hasn't been resolved.
Do you wanna keep it on the agenda then, Mike?
Please, I need to talk to Tom again.
Okay.
There's still some vehicles that are, there's a champagne colored SUV with no license plates on it in the middle of the, by his entrance, front entrance, in the side, by the Patterson's house. two of the vehicles have been removed, but that one hasn't been moved at all, and it certainly isn't registered, it doesn't have license plates on it.
Okay,
It has a main inspection sticker on it too.
oh, interesting.
You can roll it back across the San Antonio River.
Okay,
We have an email, I don't know where it should come up, but one that just came in from Paul Cass.
okay.
He just passed it on for some reason. A resident had a question, he thought it might come from the Conservation Commission, so I think that's why Paul got it. But folks that bought a house up on Wentworth Street want to put up a fence. They have some confusion about, I'll just read it to you if you want.
Sure,
We should be
please.
addressing it, and why make them wait a week. My wife and I purchased a house on Wentworth Street in Rollinsford. In the backyard, there's a tail end of what appears to be quote-unquote conservation land, as the trees are marked, but it is our property. We have a dog, and we'd like a fence in the backyard for safety and peace of mind. Is it possible to put a fence through the woods in the back or perimeter of our land? We would leave the trees and just put the fence on our property line. Please let me know what options we have, and don't hesitate to reach out, and blah, blah, contact info. And we should have Tom Clark just reach out to the person. Forward it to Tom and have him address it.
Yeah, I think that's a
I mean,
good
that-
idea.
If it's, they can't cut down the trees, that was the
Right,
deal.
so-
I mean, I'll put a fence up.
So we could ask Tom to use the opportunity to reinforce
Educate
that,
them about that.
that no trees are to be.
Yeah.
cut
And
down.
even the gentleman mentioned that he didn't think.
And
I
there's
can
certainly, they don't
forward it
need
to
a
Tom
building
now if you
permit,
want.
yeah.
No, you don't need a building permit for
Don't
a
need,
fence.
yeah. Do you know why? Is there something rational about,
It's in the zone, I don't know.
yeah, I understand it as part of
I
zoning,
mean, there's
but,
a driveway and you have to do driveways. It's
yeah,
not a building.
right. And so what, but no, I think fences are expressly, like, excluded.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just curious, why would, because they're sensitive. You know, the setbacks, you need to make sure that they're,
Yep.
you know, following setbacks. It's just a
Yeah,
curiosity.
there are rules about putting up the fence.
Yeah, but they just don't,
You just don't have to, not have a building permit.
yes, but those rules, you know, one
Well,
way
that's
to
the
make
point.
sure.
How
that-
do you follow them? How do you even know what the rules are?
Yeah, so it's remains a curiosity to me.
I mean, maybe there's just standard practice, you have to have X amount of feet to maintain the fence on your land, and the nice part of the fence has to face your neighbor, right? And that, I mean, is it like
Well,
that everywhere? I
that's
don't know.
convention, I don't know if that, I don't know if that's anywhere, but, okay, so you're gonna
Well, that's
forward.
my point, what's convention and what's the actual regulation? Doesn't seem to be,
Well, there's not, I don't think
Clear.
I don't think there's anything about fencing other than they're excluded from,
right.
building permit process. SR, so you're forwarding,
I'm doing it right now.
okay. SRPC visioning, and we're gonna table that, maybe I will put it on an on hold section until we're ready to, or the board is ready to kind of deal with it again. At this point, we probably are pushing back any thought of doing the village because, you know, next year will definitely be, Heritage and, Woods Run. And we may need to bleed into the following year to finish it up, it kind of will depend on what the cost is. And then we've also got this, not a promise, but, you know, what we've mentioned to Dover Public Works is that the earliest we could consider doing anything for Oak Street is 2020. So I don't know whether they're hoping to do something then or what, but, so anyway, I don't know when we'll get back to the village, but I think it's still a good idea to have an overall plan for what we think we can do there. Oak Street, did you perambulate?
On
Mr.
Sunday
Bell?
I did,
And what did you discover?
road's still there.
Okay, did you find
There's
markers?
boundaries, yeah, I didn't go all the way down, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to, I can again next weekend, or this coming weekend, I didn't go down, I went from, I can't think of the name of the damn street, Highland, to Oak, you know, the Highland, Broadway
Yeah,
intersection,
yeah,
all the way up to,
Fresh Creek,
Fresh Creek where it begins, across from the old armory.
yeah.
But I didn't go down Fresh Creek all the way down to Bear Road, I didn't walk down that.
Oh, that's in the middle of,
Well, yeah, but it's dry right now, so I mean, I guess I could, but I did not do that. But that would also be our part of the
Alright.
boundary, had to look for the.
I can't remember,
the
so it
markers are
actually
still
goes
there
into
around,
the, Do you don't have it with you?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I
I
mean,
was certain that I had to go that way. I mean, I didn't walk across the Oak Street fence, I did drive, because I wasn't gonna cross the railroad, so that wasn't happening, so.
Well, I mean, if you're comfortable with the perambulation and that the board is comfortable with your perambulating, you can just let,
Am I supposed to perambulate the entire town?
no, just the
Just
street.
that one section,
Field Street,
okay, good.
yeah.
That's been.
You can let Kevin Baum know that the board has
Yeah.
done so and
Sure.
we didn't find anything amiss. All right.
Okey-dokey.
One other thing that didn't make it to the agenda is that, so I don't know whether this came just to me, but when I let the Conservation Commission know about Bruce York's appointment, he just,
Someone
Linda
resigned?
Sue Silsdorf sent in a resignation. So,
Unrelated to Kevin Baum, it wasn't like
it's just,
I
she
mean,
just said, oh,
Bruce
it just,
York.
it's kind of like, oh, thank God,
someone else that wants to be on
there's, I don't feel so bad because now there's a replacement, but
it.
so she felt in the final analysis it wasn't the best fit for her and she could do better by volunteering in other kinds of conservation projects. So I will just record that on I keep a list now for every committee about any action that takes place during the year, so I will just add that she resigned and you're an alternate, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
So you'll have to, the board, the commission will have to get another secretary.
Yes, I'm more than aware that Linda was our secretary.
Yes, I know, that's a tough one to lose.
Yeah.
Tough one to lose. All right, so that's just an announcement. All right, a transition plan. So Caroline sent the board an email with a, pretty thoughtful document about what she thought the board might need going forward without me. And we don't have to make decisions on this, we can have a preliminary conversation, but in any event, there would be money associated with those. And so, as I said earlier, what I hope to do when I get the budget is to see what I can scrape from various places so that the board has an idea of what it might have to work with to do some of that. The other thing that I started, which is just something that I have been talking about that I would still be interested in doing whether I resigned or not, is how to make our meetings more efficient and effective and hopefully to get to 2 meetings a month. And so I did,
Can I ask a question about
Yes.
the 2 meetings a month?
yes,
Why haven't we just done it? I mean, it really hasn't come up for a vote since I've been on. We talk about it, but we didn't vote on it.
no, we didn't. If you're ready to vote on it, Michael is very reluctant. I'm, of course, gung-ho.
Well, you're gonna be gone.
Would you stay if we
Yes.
did? Until the end of the year?
Oh, no, that's a different question, Denise Mills.
I'm just asking.
She's trying.
Because I've been thinking about that. Or maybe a little longer than July 31st.
I will give that some serious consideration.
All right, then let's postpone this conversation until next week.
Can I at least, if you haven't read my document, can I at least kind of review
I
it?
couldn't
Of
actually
course.
open it. I tried
Really?
a couple times
Oh,
today.
I read it, but yeah.
I wasn't on anything but my phone today, and I usually
Oh,
don't have
so-
an issue with my phone, so
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just the Wi-Fi in the building I was in maybe.
Well, some of the things that, my assumptions in doing this is the board is most valuable when we're making high-level reviews and strategic decisions, and that the time we spent on and I don't mean small, I don't mean to downplay them, but they're operational, and they should be part of a business continuity plan that we've kind of provided for. So we're here for exceptions, we're thinking about ways to make us more efficient and effective overall, whether it's energy savings or managing a new police station, or all of those things that require, thoughtful kinds of things. And so that's one of the assumptions. And when we spend time on operational issues, we cut down on our ability to do that. And so when I say 2 meetings a month, it doesn't mean that we're not spending some time outside of that. So, just like I spend time outside of our every Monday meeting doing stuff. This would allow, board members to think about and plan for and do proposals on various issues that the board thinks is important. So the places where I see opportunities right now is purchasing. And, you know, I've had this purchasing policy plan in the wings, and I haven't had time to go through it, but with it, if we adopt it, it has this limited purchase order, and where, is this new to you? So I can just, okay. So I don't remember what the ceiling is or threshold for this limited purchase order, but it's a purchase, then we would review that. Whatever it is, if it's 500, if it's 1,000, it would allow a department head in Caroline to sign off on it. So two people, our primary administrative support and the department head. And Caroline would be there to make sure it's in the budget, blah, blah, blah. And so we wouldn't need to see those. We would see the ones that are for more than whatever the threshold is. And the other thing is, even when they come to us, like, we're sort of reading it into the record twice. The department head is reading it, we're reading it. So if department head's reading it, we can just say so moved. And then have a second. If somebody says so moved, have a second, and then we talk about it. And that, you know, a minute here, 30 seconds there, and pretty soon it adds up to, you know, more significant time.
And we could also have, if we needed to bring them with you, you can get more
Right.
just afterwards, you know, so she can write down if she didn't catch it or something, you know, so then she can see it,
Yes,
do your thing, and then we'll put it in the file.
Yeah. So you don't see any problem on your end if we were to do something like that?
No, as long as I have the information, it doesn't matter how it gets here.
Okay, building permits, so we've already talked about that, you know, short term, you know, I think if we just sit here, you know, quietly sign them, look at them, sign them, and, you know, Salma can use that, I sort of have a stock thing that I suggested, but it can say anything. The board reviewed building permits and or certificates of occupancy, the building permit log is available to the public online or at town hall. And if there are weeks we don't, we just wouldn't put that in there, because sometimes we don't have building permits. And in the long term, of course, review the zoning ordinance and where applicable, change the select board to building inspector, or, as you were suggesting, you know, then that's perfectly fine too, that, you know, gives us the most flexibility.
Right.
And so in those periods when there might be a new building inspector and we wanted to do a more thorough review with him or her, it would give us the opportunity to do that. Welfare administration, so that's the other thing that I brainstormed with Caroline, is that most towns don't get involved in the same level of detail. Now, there was a time when we were actually the person,
The
you
detail,
know,
yeah.
which was
We did everything.
really difficult because of the lack of consistency in our work.
Exactly.
We are so much better off, and I hope the board agrees, with having one person in charge of this. But what we might consider doing is having her come to us and see how other towns, because she's plugged in with how other towns manage this. And if there are certain authorizations that we can officially give her,
All right.
you know, to either a certain level or a certain, I don't know what, but something that we're comfortable with. And, you know, we need to be able to trust our staff employee that there's an issue or something funny or different. She would come to us and say, look, I don't know what to do with this one.
There must be a way to make that work, because there are a lot of communities do not, the select board actually doesn't issue, even though we are the arbiters of last resort, or overseers of the poor, or part of our official title. They don't actually do the
Day-to-day.
administrating of the welfare, even in small towns, I know, so.
Same with building permits.
So, but the building permit isn't part
I'm
of
sorry,
their
Mike.
zoning ordinance, I mean, that's, so there's.
Well, no, I understand, we have to
The
change,
statutes allow us to do what you're suggesting, so
yes, we just need, right.
we just
Have
have
to
to work
change
with the parameters, that's fine by me. I mean, I think it's, we've saved money ultimately because we have a consistent process. I mean, before it was, you know, whoever you could pigeonhole sitting here by themselves and to give them
Yeah,
what
it
you
was sort
wanted.
of
I
frickin'
mean,
frack
yeah, it
administering
was- it
welfare.
was.
No offense to any of us, but I was one of the fricks and fracks
It was
doing it,
horrible.
yeah.
Right, and at least she has all the, she has the checklist, she has everything
No,
that she.
there are also laws that we're supposed to follow that
Exactly,
we're not aware
and
of.
she knows
Right,
that.
and she has her contacts,
Right.
she's developed contacts with other towns and municipalities. Right, so here's something that, you know, in my calculations, I think we have to consider. So if the board chooses to pilot meeting twice a month, and should that end up being feasible, so in other words, you can pilot it for the rest of this year, then the board can discuss reducing the select board stipend for FY 2019, you
Right.
know, because We do
That's
have
our
a generous
responsibility.
stipend, and it's based largely on the kinds of operational issues that we get involved in.
Right.
And so we can take a look at that, and while it isn't, we're not gonna reduce it to zero, but I mean, we could think, and it won't be a lot of money, but, whatever, again, 1,000 here, 1,000 there can help
Yeah.
defray some of the costs for,
Yeah.
reworking our operational budgets.
100% agree with that.
The other thing is just, again, it should go up under assumptions or something, that is, the other thing that is good to do is foster ways to enhance business continuity, so that people aren't waiting for a board that meets once a week, or
Right.
once every, even if it's just once a week, even if we do meet once a week, you still have to wait. For
Mhm.
things that, really in this day and age, it'd be nice if the town had considered other ways so that people who need us to provide business answers can have a way to do that.
Mhm.
So that's sort of it. I don't know if there's any kind of larger conversation that you wanna have about that. I will consider what you said. Darn.
So, yeah, like I said, I didn't have access to what
Right,
you
so-
were submitted today, but I did have some other questions about projects that you're working on, if we could get a list of those.
Yes.
What duties you're performing outside of the Monday evening meetings
Yes.
would be helpful. I mean, there's not gonna be a vacuum. I mean, there will be someone put in your place if you do resign. So, that person and the two people sitting here will absorb those duties, so the things will get done. It's just, but we need to know exactly what they are.
Caroline is going to sit with me
Okay.
to capture that, start to capture that. So I don't know when you would see it. She's on vacation next week, so we may, what's really important is that I get the budget from her this week.
Right.
So if there's time for me to sit with her this week, I can start that. But,
Okay.
yeah,
And being that I'm the alternate for the budget, I'd like to go with you if you do go to that meeting, so then I can
oh,
be
absolutely,
part
yeah,
of
I'd
it,
love
so
to
we
have,
the
I'd love to have
transition.
board members there
Yeah,
anyway. It's
yeah.
a good thing.
So,
so
but if that
absolutely.
ends up being a transition, and I'm on it, then I
Yes,
make sure that they understand what's going on.
perfect. Absolutely, I would welcome that. Did you have a question or
Well,
comment?
I just wanted to find out what things were being planned. It seems like things are kind of rolling along. If you're meeting with Caroline to find out what duties you're doing, and because my view is, I happen to realize that you've been doing an awful lot, Suzanne, and I know that. And I don't know that somebody who comes in is gonna necessarily do all those things. It would be a lot more coming on all the other members of the board. And it may well be that if you can pick up some of that through your administrative staff, it would be helpful. It just seems to me, because I like the idea, one of the things that I've been thinking about, and after my conversations with both you, and I've already talked to Caroline, I haven't finished that part of my report, but it seems to me, as you mentioned continuity, I like the idea of having continuity on an administrative basis, so that if the bus hits the three of you, the town doesn't stop tomorrow. I don't want a bus to hit
No,
anybody. I'm really
sure.
kind of worried
Sure.
about that.
Well,
And it
this-
just seems to me
So I hope
that
this
we
is
have a
reflected in the report that your committee is
Yes,
working on.
well, that, absolutely, that's
Yeah.
one of the things that seems to be coming up, and I'm thinking this continuity issue. Sort of like institutional knowledge and things like that you might wanna be able to pass on, because if,
We have
As a
so few standard operating procedures, things that are written down. We have so few of that sort of
I
thing.
know.
It's in one person's head, and we have limited redundancy on an administrative,
I
support
realize that
level.
these are some of the things that are just,
right? I mean, we
as I
have,
look at this, I'm kind of going,
we've got the police have policies and processes, the fire does, but from, otherwise, our own administrative support, there's very little redundancy. We've made some strides, I can't say we haven't made strides, Google Drive has been
absolutely.
amazing. And, but when you start out and you've got this much to fill, and there's nothing in it yet, it takes a while before you
I
can
realize.
build capacity. So, but anything that you can reflect in, and when might we expect Just,
Well, we have, I'm going as fast as I can. I know that Dee and Kathy was going to be interviewing the chief, and then she was gonna talk to 5 of her towns. I know Dee was gonna talk to 5 towns, and she was going to be talking to George and to Andrea. And I still have to talk with Kate and the fire chief.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna hope I can grab him this week.
how many towns, do you mind, are?
15.
That's what I've had
15.
some of these
We
questions.
picked 15 because we found, what we were looking for was towns of similar population and similar tax base. And we found about 15 that's were pretty close to us.
Okay.
And those were our cohort.
Did that spreadsheet that I had, was that helpful in determining the 15? Just curious.
Yes, it was, as were other things that Kathy had pulled,
Okay,
and it was quite good,
right,
so.
all right, excellent. Okay, anything else to talk about?
So, I'm glad Lorraine is here, because that was my question, when do we think we can anticipate this report? Because a lot of what you're suggesting, in my mind, depends on a different level of administrative support than what this town operates under currently. So, that's my reluctance in moving to twice a month, is that I'm not confident that the administrative support that other towns that are able to accomplish this have in place that we don't have in place. We don't have a town administrator, we don't have a town manager, whichever one you wanna go with. We don't have that. We have a part-time bookkeeper / administrative assistant that's full-time in her administrative duties, part-time in her bookkeeping. So but there are more and more things we keep asking of one person, and it's not sustainable in my mind, so, under the current way we're operating, so, that's where my reluctance comes in,
Your reluctance to move to,
to 2 times a month, so.
but I think some of the things that we're talking about are not, I mean, other than the limited purchase order, which would require, Caroline or department head. The welfare decisions that she is making, it would, she would save her from coming here. Although one of the things that I know that she is suggesting, and that I would encourage us to seriously consider, or the board seriously consider, is to have her sit at this meeting. And again, if it were twice a month,
She used to.
yeah, it would be less of a commitment. But, because right now, that's a function that was missing when I was first on the board, as you know.
It
There was
was, yeah.
little follow-through for any, we were
With
reactive with little follow-through.
Mhm.
And sometimes it took somebody coming 2 or 3 times before something got resolved. So, so that would be, so again, that's why, I'm gonna be looking for pots to scrape, so that you can, or we can work together to, depending on when this happens, to consider how best to position us, to provide some redundancy that we don't have, to fill in for the continuity aspects of what I currently do as far as communication, the Monday, Tuesday
Yeah.
sort of thing where, I'll take a look at what we did and make sure that everybody has their marching orders and that sort of thing. And I know individual pieces are taken up by either of you, but most of it is on this sheet or was on my laptop.
Mhm.
And so that would probably best be managed by inviting Caroline to sit in on this meeting. All right, anything else about the transition? All right, board member activities and updates. I don't think I have any.
Planning board tomorrow night.
Oh, okay, excellent,
Okay.
very good.
I have something, I can't remember what it is.
You were going, yes, because it was going to hit the stormwater, and I rescheduled the stormwater
What day was it, Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Oh, CIP,
That's it.
the CIP, my remake of CIP. So I will be meeting with CIP.
Yes, your rehearsal will now be.
My,
the,
yes, it will.
yes,
So
opening
I'm
night.
doing that, and then I have recreation the following week, and I think that's it.
Okay. So So the reason I rescheduled the stormwater committee, we were originally scheduled to meet on Wednesday, is that I touched base with the Sequoia Stormwater Coalition, and we are meeting at the end of July, and they're going to provide us, we're gonna be working on pages 1 and 2 of the permit, which is like, 20 pages long. And what, with a homework assignment to make sure that they're giving us maps with our impaired waterways. So obviously the Salmon Falls River will be one, I think probably Fresh Creek and others may be there. And so what they're gonna require us to do is make sure that our outfalls are mapped on this. So that's what we've got things, so I don't think that will be an issue, but we need to, what they said was, we'll give you the maps, take them home, do your homework, put the outfalls on them, and then come back, because the rest of the activities that you're going to fill in are going to depend on the number and placement of your outfalls. So I said, oh, okay, fine. So I rescheduled the Stormwater Coalition's, our Stormwater Committee, so that it would be after the July Sequoia Stormwater and before the August one. So again, assuming that I'm not on the board, which is my intent right this very moment, I would ask the board to consider appointing me to the Stormwater Committee so that I can continue the work that I have started with that. Not that it's a favorite thing to do, but we have to get it done. End of story. We've got to have something in by October 10th, October 1st. And it's going to require some oversight. I mean, because this is going to be, we're going to be saying, this is what we're doing first year, second year, and the most fleshed out piece is the first year. And it shouldn't be too difficult, I don't remember exactly what, but any of the education pieces, they're gonna be available by this group. So we just pick, this brochure, that video, put a link to it, do you know what I mean? So the best thing we ever did was to fall into the Sequoia Stormwater Coalition and to pay our $1,000 a year as far as help with stormwater management. Because the other piece that is really helpful is that it's giving this region a consistent approach to it. So if EPA comes knocking or whatever, we're all saying the same thing. We're all looking at outfalls and defining outfalls in the same way. It's the most proximate source that's dumping into the river, not 3 segments back. So those kinds of things are invaluable in feeling better about the kind of information that we're going to be packaging to TES and EPA. So that's a long way to say what the Stormwater Committee is doing, but I don't have anything actively scheduled for this week. All right, so building permits?
Yeah,
So we can just use our new approach if you want, and just you can look them over and pass them on to me, and I can pass them on to Denise. And then you can, are you ready to start, you'll be ready to start doing the correspondence?
Right here?
Yeah, and I don't know if there are ways that you can see to make that piece
Easier?
better, or, I don't really know, that was a puzzlement. I know the school board sort of has somebody scan things, right?
We have abatements to go over, to finish.
Was that it for building permits?
That's it.
Okay, so these are abatement recommendations that we're getting from, is this the first batch we've received?
Second batch.
Okay. All right, so we have to talk about those, right? Are they public?
We just have a discussion in the non-public session, and then they become, the decision is public.
Okay, so maybe we should do the correspondence first,
Yeah.
Mike?
Yeah, works for me.
All right.
Okay, I have a purchase order 1452 for Pikes Industry for $287,742.68, regrading and reclaiming of paving for Heritage and Woods Run. So moved.
Second.
Okay.
So this is really, we had the contract, but we never did a purchase order, and it's unclear to me, do we need both? I guess we do, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
okay now.
So this is just the purchase order that reflects what we've already done, so, any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the next time when we do the contract, we should have a purchase order as part of it, then, that's really the way.
Yeah, exactly. Purchase order 1453 for Jody Lavoy Carnes, various supplies for summer recreation, $159.70, and there are receipts attached.
Second.
Okay?
All right, I should have said something when I saw this sort of flip by. I think maybe the more appropriate thing is a request for disbursement, that form, because it's on a purchase order, it's a reimbursement, right?
So next
Yeah,
time,
what do you
maybe
think,
have them do
Yeah,
just do it
yeah.
better the next time.
It's smalls that are 200,
Yeah.
and so bring in the receipts, attach them to the request
Yeah.
for disbursement, so, but this also works, we just need a mechanism so that
Yeah,
we're saying, okay, so let's do that. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
I mean, it's a relatively new form, I think we instituted it based on Tom about a year and a half ago, and it's worked well for these kinds of, either our stipends or
yeah, absolutely.
things like this.
Okay. So the next one is Federal Quarterly Form 941X for the town of Rollinsford. It needs to be signed 3 times, I think it's 3 of the same copies. It's payroll tax return
Oh,
for the
this is the
Department of
corrected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
So I think it has to be signed by you, because there's only one signature
Okay.
spot.
let me just reiterate what is
Mhm.
going on here. So this is, in tax year 2017, we neglected to take out Social Security for our non-police retirement folks. So that was road agent and our administrative assistant. So so what we need to do on their behalf is make sure that they have a corrected Social Security or W-2 too.
Right.
So they've got the benefits described to them. The money to support it is coming out of the fund, the general fund.
Okay. So
But
there's,
this is not, I think there's no money with this. This is just the correction.
this is the correction, right, we're not, this is July, August, and September's correction. So, but there's 3 copies, so you have to make sure you sign all 3 of them.
We keep this page for your records, do not mail. Please sign all and enter required information in the signature line. Sign here. Okay. Today is September, July 2018. I'm gonna start reading something else. I'm gonna
All
try to
right,
attend at the same time.
The next one, I'm not really sure I understand this, maybe Mike does it. It's from Citizens Bank, and it says, Vernon Suzanne, unfortunately, we were unable to accept the forms you recently signed, as Suzanne needs to sign herself, not Michael. Did you sign them?
Yes. For Citizens Bank?
Did you sign your name or her
I
name?
signed them on her behalf, and I initialed them
Oh, okay,
as
yeah.
the vice chair because everything had to wait.
Okay, so it said, please sign 2
Sign it
copies
again, then.
and return 2 to
Well,
me. and
I
then
don't know why they
post
wouldn't
it.
accept it.
Well, it says you have to sign it yourself. So, and Vern has to re-sign them as well.
Okay.
So those need your signature. Citizen Bank, Government Banking, this is from Vern. It says, this is the signature form for the, I can't read that. I can't read that word. What is it? Triple? Is that triple?
Hi. This is the signature form for the high interest yielding investment account.
Okay, high interest, I couldn't read this writing.
No, I know.
One of the selectmen needs to to sign where indicated on page 3 and return to Vern afterwards. So does it say chair? It does not. You wanna sign it, Michael? No, you?
It's fine with me. Want me- I don't care. All right, I think I have, if you wanna look, oh no, there's more than 3 things here.
There's 3, oh, I thought there was 3.
So I'll just make a comment. I've been really pleased with the treasurer's report. It has more detail
Yeah?
and it is, I like the format. It's very professional. And what I believe our treasurer is doing is looking for ways to, again, scrape, money here and there
Mm-hmm.
in short-term ways. So that's really helpful to
That's
us.
good for the town.
Yep.
Okay. The next one is Dumas Infernal Certified Public Accountants, Forms W2C and W3C. No payment due, sign and date on the X, mail an envelope, and mail employee copies now.
So I believe these are signed,
Okay,
and this is Citizens Bank.
sign and date right here. Oh, this must be pertaining to the same incidents with the the
Social
Social
Security, I mean,
Security
Social
issue,
Security.
cause there's, yes, there's individuals that were affected by that.
Okay, so this is signed.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
These are signed.
Okay, all right,
Sorry.
I know, that's okay, thank you.
All right, so this is,
W2.
does this convey to them then?
That must be what they're gonna get
Okay.
for their there's the attachments behind there shows the individuals. You missed one.
I did.
There's a sign here, there's no sign.
All right.
Hold on, let me just make sure. There's sign there. There's sign there. Okay, missed one there. Is this one? So that one looks. And then I have a signature for appointing official listed below, confirm the above named individuals shall be appointed to the town of Rollinsford representative of the Stratford Regional Planning Commission.
Yes, so they sent us an email, oh no, we voted on Michael, you were to be our, to replace Judy. We did notify them, but they wanted us to do this, I guess. So the signatures of the appointing officials listed below confirm that the above named individual, it's actually not above. So you are the appointee. Michael, do you want a middle initial? I'll let you fill those things in.
You'll sign this one.
Yes, thank you for
Mm-hmm.
reviewing that. Tax season must be over, huh?
Yeah. We have time for these multiple forms.
Yes.
Okay.
He also gave us our financial statements, which are in his file. So the 2017 financial statement has been received.
Okay, so this was Department of Revenue Administration, Municipal Property Division. I have a note here that follow up with Mike and Suzanne.
Oh, is this the equalization thing? Or what is this?
Current use.
Current,
Yep. Working with Caroline on it.
oh, you're working with Caroline, okay.
So are we all set on that then? Because I see a bunch of initials, CK. Is that Caroline?
Yes,
Well, CKR. What's the R stand for?
maybe it's a typo,
I don't know.
Or maybe it's not hers.
maybe it's not her.
Okay.
Yeah, it must not be.
So what am I gonna do with this?
You still working on it, you want to keep it in that folder?
I'll leave it in it, so
Yeah,
there's
thank
some
you.
follow-up in here?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
The
Could
questions,
you,
they were suggesting, bless you, that we have deficiencies in our.
yes, yeah, and you were
the way
gonna,
we were
right,
doing it.
right.
Yeah.
So what did you do, have you found anything?
We haven't had time, we've
Okay.
talked about it, we have not
All right.
figured it out.
So Mike, I don't know whether you can appoint yourself, I don't see anything wrong, or Denise can sign it. Okay, so this is appointing Mike to the Stratford.
My
That does
pleasure.
too.
Yes, we've already officially did it, but Stratford Region wants that appointment letter.
Got it. All right, I'll send it.
Yeah.
All right. And then,
Congratulations and thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
let me just make sure, I think I'm all set. I believe that's it for me. And do those go back to you, Mike?
All right, so we are going to go into non-public, so before, to review abatements, we'll come out of that and probably have some decisions, which I can relate to you, Salman. If you can wait out there if you want, folks, or just, read it in the minutes, but in any event, I'll ask to see if there's community input from anybody. Celia?
Yeah, there was a resignation from the rec committee, and I wanted to make sure that made it to the board.
No,
Or, okay,
not even to me.
okay. One person had resigned by email.
Who?
Liberty Rowitz.
Oh, I did get that, I'm sorry.
So would you like me to remove her from the distribution list?
Yes, I can forward the email that she sent to the committee,
Yeah, I did get it, I have it, I can forward it.
to the select board,
Yeah,
Denise can
I'm
forward
sorry,
it.
that was quite a while ago.
Yeah, it was in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I do have that one.
So I just, because you were talking about resignations.
Yes, well, I like to keep them in the membership thing, so
Yeah.
anybody who's looking at it will know not only who we appointed first, but any activity that's happened in the interim, so that way it's just easier for us to keep track, and the next year we'll, have a better handle on things.
There wasn't anything wrong, just a personal decision.
Yeah, it's time consuming, and we appreciate
Yeah.
people who do serve. Yes, Charlie?
Yes, is the CIP noted on the board, posted for Wednesday?
I don't know, Charlie, you can tell me, you know it's
I
not.
didn't see it there.
Okay, just tell me, I'll get it done.
Okay.
And in your discussion about the fence viewer, every year we had.
I'm sorry, about the what?
Fence view, the
You-
fences,
Oh.
we, at town meeting, always elect a fence viewer. So is that the person that's responsible for the fences
No, I
versus you guys?
believe they're unrelated.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just thought maybe they didn't do building permits because the fence viewer is supposed to be that jurisdiction.
Well, that's a
Fence
good.
viewer works on disputes.
Michael's our historian on those vestigial colonial positions.
Exactly, yeah.
So I just didn't know.
That at least one of us would really like to discontinue,
And to
but,
be fair, they're most of them honorary.
yeah, but they take up time and town meetings, so,
I
whatever.
think that probably takes up at least enough time.
All right, anything else? All right, so I will encourage a motion or accept a motion for John.
Move that we go to non-public session to deal with abatements.
Okay,
Okay, roll call, Michael?
Yes?
Denise?
yes.
Suzanne, yes. We'll wait for Salmina.
We have to wait for that.
Yes, I understand, we will. We'll be patient.
Sometimes that's hard to do.
Be patient.
Yes.
It is.
Well, the air conditioner was not on.
It is starting to get a little warm.
It was earlier, but something, it hasn't been for a little while.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we'll be here too long, so. I'll just chatter. Robin Aikman has